Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
This is a complicated decision. We just got it here. It's an opinion from Chief Justice Joan Roberts finding that former presidents are entitled to absolute immunity for official acts, but not for unofficial acts. So what does that translate to? Well, this is something we saw that was sort of signaled in oral argument, because what this means is that the former president cannot be prosecuted for anything that was officially part of his job when he was in office. And that's significant because even his own lawyers conceded during oral argument that not everything that is alleged in this indictment was an official act. So now the question is, what does the special counsel do here? He could potentially try to cull down this indictment to a more narrow one, just focusing on unofficial acts, and then try to proceed with this case. Still an open question, though, about whether even a slimmed down case could go before the election. 3 reasons for that. One, the judge overseeing this, Judge Tanya Chutkan, she has signaled that the lawyers should get some lead time on this. I mean, we're a couple months out from the election. The idea of putting the Republican candidate for the presidency on trial, where he would have to be in court months, weeks before the election, that's something that would likely have us right here again before the Supreme Court. Also, the Attorney General, unlikely to allow something to go ahead that quickly, but we'll see. But right now, this decision, the Supreme Court finding that former presidents are entitled to absolute immunity for official acts, but not for unofficial acts.
Okay, so this was the split the baby, a decision that we sort of knew was coming, but this is a little bit worse, So brace yourselves, everybody. I mean, obviously they were going to split the baby. Obviously they were going to say, well, if you're, doing something official as the president of the United States, as long as it's not violative of criminal statutes like U.S. Code 18, that book, that whole book on criminal code, right? I really thought that they would say that as long as you aren't, breaking one of those criminal statutes as president of the United States, you're not prosecutable, even after you leave office, right? Which violates the whole Nixon thing, okay? I'm just saying, because Nixon, obviously was president of the United States when he ordered that the burglars break into the Democratic National Committee headquarters in the Watergate Hotel and get the inside scoop on how the Democrats were going to run against him. Okay, he did that while he was president. He did. Burglary, though, is part of those criminal statutes, and so the Supreme Court of yesteryear said, oh, no, he has tape recordings of him calling up these burglars or ordering these burglaries. Those tapes belong to the people, the peeps. We get to see. That's done. Bye-bye. Ancient history. No, nothing even close to that could ever happen again. And yet we have a president who has committed so many crimes, like selecting fraudulent electors, creating false documents to have them introduced into Congress, to not certify an election, a free and fair, whatever. Those days are gone. This is what I wanted you to understand, because while I thought that they would say that there are official acts that a president enters into, and those are protected provided he doesn't break the law, the criminal statutes. And then there are non-official acts, things that he does, privately for his own private benefit, that are not covered, that are not immune from criminal prosecution after he leaves office. Now, remember how surprised you were when you found out that there was an Office of Legal Counsel? Remember that? And remember when you found out that the Office of Legal Counsel had a memo? A memo, everybody. A memo, a little rule they wrote down that said sitting presidents can't be indicted, let alone, found to be breaking the law. You can't, even if you found that they broke the law while they're president, they are immune from being indicted. Okay? Remember how surprised you? Wait till you find out what this one says. Wait till you find out what the Supreme Court, the Imperial Court of the land now, has just said about the absolute immunity of a president of the United States. I just want you to understand that we now have a king and that you are no longer citizens. You have a king and we are subjects. And that is what happened today. That is what really transpired today. That from this day forward, we have no more democracy unless a president of the United States chooses to run the country in that manner. Because, seriously, the idea that is in this decision actually allows for, I'm not kidding, Joe Biden, who is the president, to do anything at all he feels is necessary to protect the American people, let's say, under the umbrella of that. He could do anything at all. The SEAL Team 6, yes, he could do it and he would be immune. Yes. That's what Sotomayor actually wanted us to understand about this. Her dissent is so powerful, and Ketanji Brown Jackson's is terrifying. I mean, the way that Sotomayor signed off on her dissent, with fear for our democracy, I dissent. Not respectfully, I dissent. No, with fear for our democracy, I dissent. She lays out all the nightmare scenarios that we all tell each other when we call this show and when I have to respond to it. She calls all of them out and says, would these be immune? Yes, they would be immune. Would that be immune? Yes, that would be immune. Every single thing that we talk about, that we say, well, can a president do that? Now he can. Now he can. She says, looking beyond the fate of this particular prosecution, the long-term consequences of today's decision are stark. The court effectively creates a law-free zone around the president, upsetting the status quo that has existed since the founding. So much for textualists and originalists. This new official acts immunity now lies about like a loaded weapon for any president that wishes to place his own interests, his own political survival, or his own financial gain above the interests of the nation. The President of the United States is the most powerful person in the country and possibly the world. When he uses his official powers in any way, under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power? Immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon? Immune. Immune, immune, immune. Let the president violate the law. Let him exploit the trappings of his office for personal gain. Let him use his official power for evil ends, because if he knew that he may one day face liability for breaking the law, he might not be as bold and fearless as we would like him to be. That is the majority's message today. And even if these nightmare scenarios never play out, and I pray they never do, the damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves have shifted irrevocably. That's a hard word to say. Irrevocably. It's irrevocable. Add the "ly" to that. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now king above the law. So, if you get an evil president, if you get a president who, wants to take bribes in exchange for official acts like pardons or to veto a piece of legislation that corporate doesn't want, whatever it is, let him do it. Let him do it. It's his official act as president. And just remember now, the idea that you could say out loud in this country that no one is above the law is now a joke. It's done. It's over. It's no longer true. So I need for everybody to understand that even Joe Biden right at this moment is actually a king if he chooses to be, and you are now the subjects. We lost the revolution. That's the world we live in.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right. I know you're chomping at the bit, so we'll do this early. Casey and Magaloko.
How you doing, Randy?
Hey.
I don't even know what to say because there's so much to digest, with the Democratic Party. And the bottom line is even when Hillary, you're going to get mad at me when I say this, and I don't want Bernie to run right now. Let me explain to you. I want him to be part of the equation. But Bernie was filling stadiums where she couldn't even fill a town hall. And the same thing with Biden. It's like they should have known in 2020, anybody could have beat Trump in 2020. Why they run Biden? That's the thing. And you can't pull Biden down
because we had a primary and he won.
Well,
I hate when people say, why did they? As if they is a thing. We had primaries. We had elections all over this country. Every state had a primary. There were tons of people on the ballot. And Biden won 3,900 delegates out of 4,000. He got 95% of the delegates. That's why.
I get that. Hear me out, Randy. How is this election even close? This is the thing is, the bottom line is it should be a landslide victory for the Democratic Party, a slam dunk. And we are going on a suicide mission. I mean, it's like you can't run Kamala Harris because she polls less than Biden.
It isn't that. It's that we had primaries. And the people selected their nominee, and his name is Joe Biden. And I will take Joe Biden on his worst night, which happened to be last Thursday, over Donald Trump on his best day. And that's where you have to get to.
Right, but Middle America and the independents
Middle America.
That's how you make your tent bigger, Randy. Our tent's not getting bigger. Where's the Me Too movement? Where's these women that marched back a couple of years ago? Where are they?
They picked Joe Biden.
So you're saying we should run Joe?
We have no choice. You have no choice. Of course you have to run Joe. Joe is your nominee. He is the nominee of the party. We have to stop being navel gazers. We have to stop being whiners and bedwetters and complainers and spineless wonders, okay? Stop it. Just stop it now. Donald Trump stood on that stage and lied every second his little pie hole was moving, okay? Lied about everything under the sun, okay? Made an alternate reality out of his 4 years. And nobody is saying Donald Trump should, for the good of the country, not run. But only Democrats are saying it because we had one bad debate night. Now, Obama had a bad debate night. Obama had a terrible debate night, and John Fetterman could barely speak when he had his debate. And guess what? He beat a freaking Mehmet Oz, who was a guy with national name recognition, by 5 points.
But Joe had one task to do because he's already
That's all anybody has to do at a debate.
He had one task that night for an hour and 20 minutes or whatever it was, to show the American people that he still has it. And he didn't, and he couldn't stop the lies. He was, I'm sorry, he was floundering no matter how you want to look at it.
You're sorry, Casey. He's your nominee. That's that.
So what happens when we lose, Randy?
He's your nominee. That's that.
I don't know what to say, man. I'm just.
He's your nominee. We actually had elections in this country. You may not like the result of the election. You probably didn't like it last time either, and you probably didn't like the time.
He hasn't been finalized yet, though. He hasn't been finalized as our nominee. That's the convention's for. That's what the convention's for.
I need for you to look up each of the 50 states' last day to get on their national ballot, to get on the ballot for president, because it's done. There's not time to get legally on 50 states' ballots. It's not happening, okay? It's not.
Well, I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared, Randy. I really am. I mean,
that's
if we need more conservative judges.
Stop being so terrified about every damn thing. Stop it. Just stop it right now.
I can't convince Middle America. I can't convince independents.
I can't convince anybody of anything, apparently. But you know what? 10,000 people in Wisconsin, 10,000 people in Michigan, and 10,000 people in Arizona are going to pick the next president, because that's what we have.
Yeah, I listen. I love you, Randy, and I respect you, and I've always looked up to you, and I just when do we start holding the Democrat? I mean, I know this ain't the time, but we need to start holding the Democratic Party accountable.
Yeah,
we need to go with the populace instead of this.
All the shows I do about the Electoral College, and all the shows I do about constitutional amendments, and all the shows we did about gerrymandering, people don't like them. They're not really interested in the details. Okay, so here's where we are, and this is where we have to go. And how do we get there? 10,000 votes in Wisconsin, 10,000 votes in Michigan, and 10,000 votes in Arizona. That's how we get there.
Well, I'm hoping, Randi. I mean, I really am. I just still think it's a suicide mission. I think they need to do a big game changer, like a game changer.
Keep it to yourself then, because nothing's going to change. This is it. This is the election.
All right. You take care. Be well, okay, Randi?
All right.
I do want to say that even though I don't agree with a lot of what Casey's saying, his sense
No,
of...
I get his emotional,
I get it.
quotient.
And I want us emotional. I don't want Democrats or casual voters to think, it's no big deal, Trump's going down. I want them thinking,
Nobody
oh my
thinks
God,
that.
I have to get out and vote. I may not have, but now I really need to vote. It's red alert time. That's where we need to be.
I think that's where we are. I think that's why you heard him sound like that. I think that today, with the Supreme Court finishing up its 2024 decisions and considering the mifepristone, they didn't decide it. They just said, we'll wait for a better case. Okay, we'll wait for a better case. Kicking the can down the road on social media, kicking the can down the road. And the only thing that they actually ruled on is that a president is a king, and that's that. Okay, and if you don't like it, add justices. Now, here's something that ought to scare the bejesus out of people who don't know, like I'm an independent and I really don't know what to do. One's a liar, one is old. Yes, but either one of them is going to have an opportunity in the next 4 years. And you know what that opportunity is? It's probably going to be to expand the Supreme Court. Okay, it's going to be at least to appoint replacements for some of the elder Supreme Court justices, like a Clarence Thomas, like an Alito. Alito's own wife has been out there, contemplating that her retirement's going to be glorious because the statute of limitations for her to sue her neighbor for calling her the C word, which is really how low it got with Supreme Court justices in this country and their spouses. The other one's Clarence's spouse. She's an instigator. She's an insurrectionist lover. Okay, and so those people are old, and they're going to get replaced. And you know what? To have two more, but coming in at 40 years old, you know what that means? Do you? It means not only do we get to live our golden years under a psychotic, conservative bunch of mullahs. Because that's really what you have now is a bunch of mullahs who want Sharia law, but the Christian version, but Sharia law in this country, right? But we'll get younger ones who won't even affect just our lives and not just our children's lives, but their children's lives too. And then there's the possibility that we could expand the Supreme Court. Now, if we expanded the Supreme Court with a guy like Joe Biden and a Kamala Harris, might be a good thing, might be a very good thing. But don't think that Donald Trump doesn't think that option's available to him, too. Now, can you imagine what he would do with 4 more?
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
If you really want to understand what a Trump return to the White House would look like, listen to what Steve Bannon is saying. So I saw recently while you were on the air doing your show, Donald Trump called.
Hey, Mr. President, I'm live on TV. Can I call you back? I'll call you back, sir. Thank you.
How often are you talking to him?
I don't want to talk details, but we keep in pretty good contact. A lot.
Okay, I just want to interrupt. You can put me on a split screen if you feel so inclined, or just leave it like that. I just want to talk over this for a brief moment. The President of the United States has been adjudicated by a jury of his peers to be a felon, 34 felony counts. One of the things about being out on bond when you are a felon awaiting sentencing is you cannot, mix with other felons. Steve Bannon just entered federal prison today because he's a felon. I just find it so interesting that there are no laws. There are no laws that apply to, this cabal of people that the American people would say, oh, that's bad. No, if you're in the tank for Trump, you're in the tank for Trump. That's just the thing. Okay, so there you have right there a little bit of law breaking right there on the ABC News.
A lot of the things we talk about end up in his speeches, so we talk frequently enough.
Steve Bannon's worldview echoes loudly in Trump's speeches, with retribution, a central theme of Bannon's war room, a cornerstone of the Trump campaign.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior, I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
Some of those who served Trump and crossed him say they're worried. Stephanie Grisham, who was the communications director, the press secretary, communications director for chief of staff for the first lady.
You're not talking about people like that. That's ridiculous.
She says that she's worried about being charged with treason, that she could be disappeared someday.
That's absurd. I'm talking about people in positions of authority.
Oh.
For instance,
Andrew McCabe, the former
100%,
deputy judge, he says he might have to leave the country.
He ought to be very worried. He's definitely going to be investigated. So is Comey. So is Esper. I believe Milley will.
Oh.
People, look at what happened in. Look what happened.
Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
Yes,
staff.
because look at we don't know what conversations he had outside the military chain of command when he's chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
Oh God.
When he talked to the Chinese, when he talked to Nancy Pelosi.
Oh
we have to investigate all that. If you haven't done anything, you shouldn't worry.
Well, they're worried because Trump and you are talking about retribution. You're talking
about
not
retribution at all. First off,
wait, those were his words, not my words. I am your retribution.
And what he says by retribution, he said, like he said last night on the debate stage, his retribution is a very successful, more successful second term. What we're saying is we want justice. We want to have full investigations, and then if criminal charges come up, then criminal charges come up.
I mean, you made a promise on your show, as you said, that the Attorney General will be in prison.
100%.
So you're not just talking about investigation. Is Bill Barr on the retribution list?
I think Bill Barr has to be investigated.
Oh, my God. Okay, so their entire thing is revenge. Okay, their entire second term is built around revenge. If criminal charges come up, then criminal charges come up. Well, criminal charges came up against the former president of the United States. Criminal charges came up like 88 criminal indictments, 88 different indictments, okay? And so why are they all of a sudden, well, you know, if you get caught or charged with a crime, then you should stand trial. Unless you're me, unless you're him, unless you're Rudy Giuliani, unless you're Peter Navarro, unless you're willing to lie and die for Donald Trump. Other than that, you all need to be investigated. We all, want retribution against the people who gave state's evidence, against the people who, spoke badly about Donald Trump even. We need all of them to be removed. We need every single one of them, even though there are crimes against Donald Trump. Well, according to the Supreme Court now, and this is really a detail you need to know. So in the main opinion that Roberts wrote, okay, Chief Justice Roberts, whose legacy is going to be that he turned the United States into a Sharia law, that they are mullahs now, that the president can be a criminal, that the president is a king, and we are all now subjects. We are not citizens. We don't really have rights. No precedent is going to save us. If they don't like the precedent, even if it's been in play since the 13th Amendment, or even if it's been in place for 50 years, or even if it's been in place for 30 years, like mifepristone and the FDA, they don't care. They don't care. They're going to overturn it. They want to lord over you. They're going to be the arbiters of what you can do, what you can't do, what you can have, what you can't have, when you have children, with whom you have children, that you have, if it's inconvenient, your pregnancy is not going well, you could die. We don't need to stop the world for you. Okay, it's who they are. But what he actually went further to say in this opinion is that the idea that any evidence can be used in a criminal case after a president leaves office, no evidence that was created while the president was president can be used to prosecute him for crimes he committed while he was president. So no testimony from any eyewitness that was there, Donald Trump talking to Pence and threatening Pence and telling Pence that, he can't certify the election, okay? He can't do it because, he needs to continue on as president. Those conversations, they're out. So Jack Smith now has to look at all his cases. The documents case, I'm going to guess, is done. I heard lawyers today go, well, I don't know. The documents case doesn't necessarily need to be done, but check this out. So Donald Trump took those documents while he was president. Okay, in his last moments of being president, he took those documents. And then he brought them to Magaloco. And then he was subpoenaed for the return of those documents. And then the whole story, the obstruction story begins, right? That's when he says, well, I don't have them. I don't have any of these documents. Then he said, well, if I have them, it's because you planted them. Then he said, well, if I do have them, and they're mine. I took them because I'm entitled to take them. And then he said, if you want to come and get them over my dead body. And then he tried to have them destroyed by flooding the pool room, right? So that's the obstruction portion. But the actual crime of stealing the documents happened while he was president. So doesn't that mean that all the evidence that we've seen in his bathroom and everything that we saw scattered on the floor, everything we saw in the bathroom, everything we saw on the stage at Magaloco, all of that is inadmissible now because the actual subject of the crime, the documents, were taken while he was president. So you know what they said about that? They said, you can't use any evidence at all, nothing at all that happened while Donald Trump was president in these cases. However, in unofficial acts, things that were political, like creating fake electors, and putting those fake elector certifications in, having caused them to be considered, for Mike Pence to take them and introduce them, etc. That's up to Judge Chutkan. That's what they call remanded back down to lower court, which is what I expected they would do. But I did not expect that they would say no evidence that was collected during the time he was president is off limits. And I also didn't expect them to say that if he wants to take bribes while he's president, he can. If he wants to, take bribes to pardon people, he can do that. And you can't use the actual bribe, because it happened while he was president, as evidence of the bribe.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I am so excited to see this. Larry in Lake Elsinore. Hello.
Hi there. It's been a while, Randy.
I worry about you. I really do. Don't do this again. And if you're going to do this again, please just drop me a little email, something.
I just want you to know I listen to you all the time.
I just want you to know I think about you in the freaking shower. And I actually, I swear to God, and I said to Howard, because, he likes to watch. So I said to Howard, I was talking to him. And I said, I don't know what happened to Larry in Lake Elsinore. I know he had a plate full. I know he wasn't feeling well. I said, you know who I'm talking about? He goes, the what do you call it? Barbecue sauce guy. I go, yes.
Right.
All right. I said, well,
I had a Whipple surgery where they removed a third of my pancreas.
Oh my God.
They removed my gallbladder, and they removed some of my intestines and replumbed me. And then I got infected with a strep, and it attacked my aorta valve, and I had to do open heart. That was all within 6 months. And I'm fine. I got two girls to concern myself with.
I know everything on your plate, and I was so scared that you got a really hinky diagnosis about your pancreas. I really thought that, and I hadn't heard from you, and I was like, I don't even know how to find him.
But, the thing is, I try to tell people, I try to pass it along that by the time you're 50, you should go have a MRI of your abdomen and check out what's going on the inside, because you never know. But for me, it didn't turn cancerous. I had 2 cysts, but over a period of 7 years, the doctors finally felt that we needed to go in and do something.
Yeah.
So we did.
It's the infection.
But I
don't know if you know this, but Howard, I don't want to, embarrass him or anything, but he had a spontaneous, eruption. His colon separated, and and so they had to go in, blah blah blah. But what gets you is sepsis. What gets you is the infection. Okay, and then we had to wait a year before he could be reattached, and now he is. But crap happens. Getting old is not for the faint of heart. It's just not.
No, but you know what? I learned something, and that's total freedom is not having choices. You just do what you got to do,
You're the best.
And hopefully we learn from our mistakes and we were able to move forward. But
the
reason
so
why I'm
happy
calling,
to hear from you. That's all I had to say. I just, go ahead.
I appreciate it. No, the thing, I've been listening to all this stuff, and I've been listening to all these people whining and crying, and I understand that people are motivated by their fears. It's time to become fearless. It's time to get into the fight. It's not time to cower to the likes of Donald Trump. It's time for everybody to accept the fact we've had a man in the White House for 3.5 years that has done everything to help the people. To help the people. Not to help the rich, to help the people, and they're turning their backs on him?
I know.
The gall, the nerve.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. I won't. I'm behind him 110%. Because that's what we need to do. We can't have our democracy threatened. So people that are out there, listen up. Grow some. Sorry about that.
No, it's I'm there.
I told you Larry sounded fired up today.
I'm so glad he's fired up. I'm so glad he's on my phone. You have no idea. But anyway, yes, you're right. So we got student loan relief for millions of people. We got child tax credits when they needed them most. We took half our kids out of poverty. And then the Republicans come along and they rescind what we know works. You now have a Supreme Court that is so out of control that they are literally protecting criminals from standing trial for committing crimes against our free and fair elections. Are you freaking kidding me? And people are
I call them the inferior court, not the Supreme Court.
Call them the imperial court because that's what they're behaving like. They're behaving like Tojo, is the president. You know what I mean? This is not America. This isn't anything to do with freedom or with our ability to choose anything or be. I mean, they start taking away rights and it gets easier and easier to give them up. It just does.
Yeah, I know. You and I have been living in this country, and we've seen a different kind of world. And the kids that are coming up today, like my kids, fortunately enough, my kids are exposed to me. But a lot of other kids don't have that exposure. And they're not going to know the difference. And it's the walls of Jericho come tumbling down.
Yeah.
They're going to have nothing.
I know. All because of a disappointing, debate. Performance
90 minutes.
I mean, they both sucked, both of them. They were both horrible, okay? Just incapable of getting anybody to feel confident about either of them. It just didn't happen for either of them.
But you know what else? You know what else that's being overlooked or not even given any attention? The day after the debate, Biden was on top again. But no, nobody's going to pay attention to that. He was spry. He was alert. He was clear. But nobody wants to look at that. They just want to look at the negative 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That's BS.
It's where we are. I mean, it's social media. It's a bunch of nattering nabobs on steroids, on algorithms. I mean, we couldn't even imagine that people, would be able to, spread lies like that. And, the very next day, the New York Times, the freaking New York Times said that he needs to resign. He needs to withdraw his name. And I tell you, like a lot of newspapers responded. The New Jersey, forget what the paper, it said Biden supporters to New York Times, F off. And they put that in the paper. It was great. And to serve his country, Donald Trump should leave the race. That was the Philadelphia Inquirer. So there are plenty of people.
Well, what about the Atlanta Constitutional? They're calling for Biden to step down. What a bunch of crap! Because Biden does everything for the people in those states, in the southern states, not the rich, but the people. And yet this so-called publication is asking him to step down.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's awful. We're in an awful place, and we have to make the right choice in this awful place that we find ourselves in, because we are in a bad place, and we have to get ourselves out of this bad place and buy ourselves at least some breathing room to make the right choices going forward, because the stuff that has happened because we made one bad presidential choice. And it was the worst choice, but we made one terrible presidential choice. The amount of trouble that we got ourselves into by doing that is it's going to take twice as long to get out of it.
Yeah, well, God willing, I'll be around to see us getting out of it.
You will. I feel confident now. I feel much better now. Well, thanks,
Well,
Larry.
I feel better that you are, a beacon of inspiration and for the people really out there. And I just want all the listeners to get on board, stop cowering, and start growing a pair and get into the fight.
I agree.
The fealty of the Republican Party to Donald Trump is not a surprise to anyone now. They're full-on authoritarian. They're full-on cult. And the Democrats debating this, you know what? They've had 48 hours now to talk about this and get the yips out. They ought to be back on the job right now. And job 1, job 2, job 3, job 4, and job 5 is to go out every day and kick the hell out of Donald Trump. The job is right now to stop this whining, stop the complaining, stop trying to be the cool, cynical kids. Get back to work. Get on the attack. This is a party that has always had a certain navel gazing. We want to talk about policy. We want to talk. This is a fight to the death. This is a battle where the voters want to see a dog fight, and they want to see some fight in the dog. Joe Biden had a terrible, horrible, no good night on Thursday. Yep. He went out and knocked it out of the park on Friday. And now the job of everybody in the pro-democracy movement is to get up, stop whining, throw off the comfy blanket, and get back to work.
It's not so much a comfy blanket, Rick, as it is a weighted blanket. But yes, I hear you. The amount of, poor, pitiful us, and, I don't know what to do, and, I blame Biden, can't we just replace? No, we have elections in this country. We have primaries in this country. They happened all last year. All of them happened last year. People showed up. They voted, very few people. You know what? I just wanted to tell you this. I was talking to you about how, 5% of the population picks nominees. They pick the senators. They pick the House members. They pick, the president, because no one participates in primaries, right? And so I was showing you last week how 5% of the population can, pick Lauren Boebert, and she's, her job is done, right? Her job is done. She doesn't have to do anything more. She doesn't have to win over independents. She doesn't have to win over Democrats in that new district that leans heavily ruby red. No. You just have to win the primary, and that means you only have to convince, 5% of the people. It's because no one shows up. You know what just happened? In South Carolina, where you had 3 very brave state senators stand up and fight for the right for women to get medical care when they're pregnant. They just had their primaries, and all 3 of them were defeated in primaries. Not in, general elections. No, it's not like the majority of the people in South Carolina wanted to punish them for advocating to get medical care to women who are pregnant. No. It was the radical, lunatic, fringy right. It was the nasty, ugly people who really want mullahs, not a court.
Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
So let me get this straight. I'm supposed to sacrifice 3 years of work in progress over a 1-hour debate. Well, Joe Biden's not an effective communicator. We can barely understand what he's saying. But y'all understood when he sent you that damn email about your student loan debt forgiveness. Y'all understood that. Y'all understood when y'all got that direct deposit for that stimulus check. Y'all understood when y'all got that $3,600 for that child tax credit. Y'all understood that, didn't you? When America fell on its face, Joe Biden was there to pick us up and pick up the goddamn pieces. His ass is the one who pulled us out of the pandemic. He was the one who pulled us out of a recession. When Trump lost all those jobs, Joe Biden brought it back. Joe Biden has created 15 million new jobs. 800,000 manufacturing jobs. We have record low unemployment. He's giving $16 billion into HBCUs. He's giving $1.5 billion into small black minority business alone in 2023. And before you MAGA motherfuckers come in my comment section talking about, well, the pandemic was the reason why we lost those jobs. Joe Biden shouldn't get credit. He should get motherfucking credit. Since World War II, there have been 13 recessions. And guess what? Joe Biden is one of 4 presidents to see all jobs come back. What world are y'all motherfuckers living in? Are we not living better under Biden than we did under Donald Trump? I can say yes, absolutely. Let's just rewind it back. 4 years ago, what cities were on fire? What did Trump do? 4 years ago, he told us to inject bleach or take disinfectant to deal with COVID. 71% of Americans are fully vaccinated thanks to Joe. Joe went from pillar to post during the pandemic, getting the vaccine on camera, showing the American people that it's safe. I don't care about any of that because Joe Biden can barely talk. Well, bitch, you can barely see because you're blind. If you can't see the forest through the trees, how the you gonna see these policies? As soon as your ass step out the door, you see Joe. When you see new projects when it comes to roads, bridges, and transportation, Joe did that with the infrastructure bill. If your ass is LGBT and you ain't lonely and you got love in your life and you thinking about getting married, think of Joe. He was the one who passed the Respect for Marriage Act that codified same-sex marriage. Y'all are so quick to forget. Maybe you got cognitive decline, but yet you want me to let go of Joe because he stuttered and stumbled a bit. Bitch, I will be his balance and I will be his motherfucking backbone and get his ass to the motherfucking finish line. I don't give a what CNN got to say and I don't give a about what Van Jones got to say. I'm not gonna let go of Joe because Joe didn't let go of us. When times got rough, he lifted us up and I'm here to lift you up, Joe. I'm here to return the favor.
I mean, I don't know that kid. He's on TikTok. It was amazing. It was incredible. It was true. That's why.
He certainly knows what he's talking about.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, okay? I mean, you forget the Inflation Reduction Act. You forget, that they have the craziest freaking Congress in the history of Congresses. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene in there. You got, people that actually sat at a table and negotiated a immigration reform package that could have gone a very long way to bringing some sort of sanity and order to our immigration system that could have actually had 50,000 new beds for detention so that people's asylum claims could be heard without releasing them into the interior of the country. We could have had more asylum judges assigned to do that work. We could have raised the barrier. We could have raised the standard to claim asylum in the first place. It was all in that bill. There was money in that bill for Border Patrol agents. There was money in that bill for deportations, which, by the way, costs money. You have to put people on buses. You have to put them on planes. You have to put gas in those vehicles to get them where you want them to go. You also need to get buy-in from the countries in which they came from to take them back. There was a bill that would have gone a really, really long way. And it was negotiated by one of the most conservative members of the Senate, okay? James Lankford from freaking Oklahoma, along with Chris Murphy and Kirsten Sinema, the independent from Arizona. And they don't want it introduced because they want to bitch. They want to complain. They want to point at John. I swear to God, I couldn't believe he literally said Donald Trump has in his head that there are black jobs, that there are Hispanic jobs, and that the influx of immigrants are going to take black jobs. They're going to take Hispanic. What job, I'm sorry, is it that a black person considers a black job? Brett, is there a black job? A black job?
I don't think so.
Well, according to Trump, immigrants are coming into this country to take black jobs, and I don't know what a black job is.
Honestly,
is it doctor? Is it lawyer? Is it Congress member, senator? Is it I don't know. What is a black job? A mayor? Chief of police?
Only thing I could think of, and I'm just spitballing here, is a dean at an HBSU, like a historically black college or something like that, maybe. I don't know. I don't think they exist.
So he says that the thing at the border, the problems that we have down there, that the reason why we have them is so that people can come here and take black jobs. But I don't know what black jobs are. And the fact that, he says it to African Americans who are sitting there going, oh my God, I have a job that's only for me. I just, it's unbelievable. It's just the most ridiculous bigotry I've ever seen. It's seriously in your face. And people don't find that that's a problem for the 21st century. Okay, all right. Can't help you. I just need 10,000 votes in Wisconsin, 10,000 votes in Michigan, and 10,000 votes in Arizona. That's all I want. That's all I want for Joe Biden. Truly, it's just, this is an amazing, weird-ass time in this country, truly. No precedent. I mean, this court are a bunch of unelected people. You understand that, right? They're not elected by anybody. And they are the new overseers of your government. Do you understand that? They are the overseers of your regulatory agencies. They're the see. This is what happened in that Chevron deference case, right? And I tried to explain that was a game changer, and that this would be a split the baby. But I didn't think that they would. When they split the baby, I didn't think that they would leave the bloody knife for everybody to see. I thought it'd be more surgical. But no, they said no evidence. If a president is a criminal while he's president, then, that's the way it is. It's just the way it is. While he's president, he can crime. While he's president, he can enrich himself. While he's president, he could take bribes. While he's president, because it's an official act. You know what the Constitution actually says about the presidency and what's official? What's an official act of a president? There's like 4 things. It's not that much. You can recognize nations, foreign nations, as being nations. You can recognize them. You can, say, yes, I recognize, Myanmar. I recognize Myanmar. Used to be Burma, but now it's Myanmar. I can recognize. You can make appointments. You can't confirm anybody, okay? But you can make appointments. The ones that require Senate confirmation, well, can't do much about that. You have the power to veto, which then can be overridden by a 2/3 majority, okay? You have the power to veto. That's an official act. And the power to pardon. That's an official act. Taking a bribe for an official pardon is not an official act, but now it is. You understand that? Now it is. This is crazy. This is mass madness, you maniacs. And the only way that we can turn this around is to make sure that Joe Biden is president again. Now, I have a funny feeling. I'll offer, maybe this little, nugget to those of you who need something. Those of you who need some sort of a floaty thing to hang on to, because you never learned how to really swim. Maybe, we get through the election, and maybe, Joe Biden actually says after, he's elected, I am now going to take it easy, and I'm going to step aside, and Kamala Harris is going to be taking my place. And the Speaker of the House, would be the Vice President. That's possible, but to throw Joe overboard, to say that because of one bad debate, to say that he's, too whatever to be the president, but Donald Trump isn't too crazy. He isn't too hobbled. I mean, you can see Donald Trump deteriorating on the TV too. I mean, it's patently obvious that man just repeats the same old thing over and over and over and over and over and over and believes lies.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Here's a really good question.
Donald Trump had a better night on Thursday during that debate by many measures. But according to our poll, he fell short on at least one of them. Fewer voters thought the former president was truthful compared with President Biden. Mr. Trump falsely claimed states are passing legislation to execute babies. I think you know that killing people is illegal in every state. He falsely claimed that the Speaker of the House at the time turned down 10,000 soldiers that he had offered to keep the peace ahead of January 6th, something his own acting Secretary of Defense testified to Congress did not happen.
Oh.
If he has such a strong platform, why make false claims?
Well, Morgan, I think the media is running interference on a lot of this stuff. We all know, and Nancy Pelosi herself has admitted on camera that she could have requested more National Guard troops. She bears some responsibility for the fact that they weren't there at the Capitol. We know that the multiple Democratic governors and states and even some Democratic senators and congressmen have tried to pass laws that would effectively legalize abortion up until the moment of birth. And most importantly, we know that the media seems totally uninterested in fact-checking Joe Biden from any of the number of false claims that he made.
You know, I've lost track, sir. I've been told the media's on every single side of this and everything's our fault. But let's get back to the candidate you're here to talk about. Chris Miller said 10,000 troops. He was never ordered by the president to send those to the Capitol that day.
Yeah, too bad for you, JD. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, Biden misspoke 9 different times. He misspoke. You know what he said? He said things like the cap for insulin or insulin now costs $15 for people on Medicare. It's $35. He got that wrong. He had an issue with numbers. He instead of saying billionaires, he said trillionaires, and then he corrected himself. He also said that the maximum out-of-pocket cost for Medicare for prescription drugs was $200. It's $2,000. You can see where numbers were confusing him. You know why? He had so many of them in his freaking head. You know, you're not allowed to bring any notes up there with you. Do you know that? All you can have is a little pad and a little pen. That's it. And so here you are being asked about, you know, what's the unemployment rate on the day that you started, or what's the unemployment rate today, and how many, how many dollars is it before you, cap out on Medicare prescription drug benefit, and how. So he misspoke 9 times, and we played you the fact check. So this idea that nobody fact checks him is so ridiculous, so stupid.
The candidate's performance and demeanor tonight notwithstanding, there is the crucial question of the truth of what was actually said on stage. And our fact checker, Daniel Dale, joins us now. So, Daniel, what stands out to you?
What stood out was the staggering number of false claims from former President Trump. On first count, Aaron, I counted at least 30 false claims. Now, President Biden also made false claims, at least 9 false or misleading statements on first count. I'll give you some of them. He said he's the only president in a while who didn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. Troops have, of course, died on his watch. He said he's put in a $15 per shot cap on insulin and Medicare. It's a $35 a month cap. He said it's a $200 cap on overall drug spending in Medicare. It's $2,000 a year. He said the border now has fewer crossings than when Trump was in office. That's generally not true. He said, or at least strongly suggested, unemployment was at 15% when he took office. It was actually 6.4. He said Trump wants to get rid of Social Security. Trump doesn't. He said billionaires pay 8.2% in taxes. It's much higher. He said Trump told Americans to inject bleach amid COVID. We know Trump made foolish comments about scientists studying disinfectant injection, but didn't frame it as advice to people. And Biden said the Border Patrol endorsed him. No, its union supported the border bill he'd supported, never endorsed him himself. In fairness, the president did appear to clarify that one.
That stinking bastard.
I'm glad you played that, though, because I'm really tired of the other side telling me he lied, too. You didn't fact check him.
He didn't lie. He made mistakes. He actually made mistakes. And, when you hear Daniel Dale say that when Biden claimed that the border crossings were less today than they were when Trump took office, that's generally, he had to say, not true. But on that day, on Thursday, on Friday, today, the border crossings are down to like 2,400, not even crossings. These are the encounters. They are down to like, 2,400. I mean, they're so, why? Because Biden, said that he wasn't going to hear asylum claims anymore. That's why. So, Donald Trump, they're killing babies. We're all a bunch of murderers, ladies. All of us. We're all a bunch of, serial killers. Yeah, we get pregnant. We go to the 9th month. We're in the OR, and the doctor is there. The anesthesiologist is standing by in case it's a C-section delivery. The nurses are there with the swaddling cloths. Everybody's ready. Your feet are in the stirrups, and you go, I just got a call from my husband while I was in labor, and he said he booked a cruise. I can't do this now. So kill the baby. And everybody goes, oh, okay. Are you insane that you even believe that? Are you insane that a person can say that to you with a straight face? Asking you to elect that person to be the leader of the free world, and he's saying that happens? Now, Sherry in Texas thinks it only happens in New Jersey. I swear to God, these lies have a price. They have a price. They are very expensive. They're very, very, very costly, these lies. I mean, people are literally, their entire minds are destroyed by these lies. I mean, it's just, wow. I can't even believe how much damage this kind of propaganda actually does. But it does. It just does. It's unbelievable. And, the idea that Trump is a better choice on any metric, truth-telling, problem-solving, crafting policy, health care. What is his health care policy? What is Donald Trump's health care policy? I repeal and replace. What? What is his border policy? Oh, mass deportations. That's right. He's going to mass deport everybody. He's going to build camps. We're going to see raids at meatpacking plants. We're going to see raids at manufacturing plants. We're going to see raids, I don't know, dreamers are going to get tossed out. What are you going to do? Drop them in Mexico? They don't know anybody there, okay? They're as American as you are. And the unelected Supreme Court is now what? The arbiter of all things? They are the government now? And this is a good result for anybody in this country? I mean, people are insane. Insane. Right direction, wrong direction. Unelected court is now the overseer of you. Right direction? I would say wrong direction. But, you know, viva la différence, as they say in right-wing lunatic fringy Marine Le Pen's France. Yeah, the whole world is full of... You know what this is, don't you? This is propaganda from autocrats that is all over social media, truly, that is trying to destroy NATO and the alliances that have kept Russia within its borders for 70 years. That has kept China from expanding into various, island nations around it for 70 years. And the amount of propaganda that's being just, spilled into and poured into like an open sewer line into the minds of people on TikTok and Facebook and Twitter and this one and that one is causing people to vote against themselves.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
What stuck out to voters in terms of moments that were concerning about what Trump said?
Absolutely. So to explain to your viewers a little bit about this, we have swing voters. They were in the Midwest. They sit in a room, they watch the debate. Each person is given a dial, a literal dial. You can turn it up as high as 100 if you love what you are hearing. You can turn it down as low as 0 if you hate what you are hearing. And the biggest takeaway is every time Donald Trump opened his mouth, those dials dropped. They just absolutely plummeted. Voters did not like...
Who are these voters, just so people understand?
These are swing voters.
Swing voters.
Who are saying they are either undecided or they may change their mind in the election. They have not locked in their vote choice. And so they're watching this because they are trying to decide. This is a choice between two candidates. We are watching them watch their choice. And when they saw Donald Trump and when they heard from Donald Trump, those dials dropped. They dropped in particular when he talked about January 6th. They dropped when he talked about Roe, which doesn't get as much post-game follow-up, but he doubled down on being proud of overturning Roe in that debate. And the voters took notice of that. And when he 3 times refused to say he would accept the results of the election unless he liked the results, those were his absolute bottom-out moments. And the president did land really good punches on him. Some of the most standalone statements that the viewers watching, the people in our dials responded to is, the only felon is sitting across from me in this room. That was one of the most standout lines of the night in the discussion.
All right, so that's a pollster. Her name's Molly Murphy. And, I was talking about the dials, right? That they used to show that on the TV. They used to have it live while the debate was going on. I guess it was, annoying, I don't know, or the candidate that the media was rooting for the horse race to continue wasn't doing what they would hope. I don't know. But they stopped doing it. They stopped showing it to you. But it still happens. It's a focus group. This one happened to be independent voters, swing voters in the Midwest, which goes back to Casey at Magalocos. Well, the people in the middle of the country, they were the people in the middle of the country, and they hated how he bragged about taking away the right to choose, and they hated the January 6th explanation, and they hated that he wouldn't accept a free and fair election result. Okay, and he bottomed out with them when he kept on, rehashing these lies and this very proud moment where he took a right away, something the Supreme Court has never done in the history of this country. The Supreme Court has never taken away a right. And once you take away one, the rest just fall into place. It's just so much easier to take them away. Just so much easier to say free speech is what we say it is. Free speech isn't, being able to do this or that or stand on a soapbox and say, if Donald Trump doesn't like what you're speaking, then he can have you arrested. It's part of his official duty as president to keep America safe from opposing viewpoints, because it gets so hostile, and he doesn't want any more of the political violence. And so he's doing it to protect you. I mean, it's totally plausible now. That is a totally doable thing for a president. And if it's doable for Trump, it's doable for Biden. Just want you to know that. But the dissent, in the two dissents in this case about, what is an official act. And like I said, there's maybe 4 things that a president is officially able to do constitutionally. Could veto, a piece of legislation. You can pardon somebody. You can make appointments to courts. And you can recognize a foreign nation. I mean, this is kind of it. This expansive view of what is official without saying so. And that's the other creepy part. They don't exactly say what an official act is, and they don't say what an unofficial act is. They just, drill down on certain things that might come into play regarding the pending felony charges against the most recent past president. And they say, well, if your evidence came from a person who he interacted with while he was president, then it was part of his official duty. Like, you can't use Mike Pence's testimony against Donald Trump. Even Rudy Giuliani, who admitted that he was an outside lawyer, Sidney Powell was an outside counsel, Jenna Ellis, who apologized. I would never have done if I would have known. Well, they're saying, he has the right to private counsel. He has the right to do this. And if he thought that his election was stolen, then he had an official interest. Oh, God. Are you kidding me? So what they did today was they made the president, whoever it is, above the law. And so now the pick really matters. The Supreme Court is obviously out of control. The administrative state, which keeps us, I mean, if you're so against the administrative state that you agree with the decision to overturn 40 years of precedent in this Chevron deference decision, if you think that was the right move by the Supreme Court to undo 50 years of Roe, to undo 40 years of Chevron, 18,000 court cases cited the Chevron case, from 40 years ago as being, all that stands in the way of free speech. The only decision, listen, every decision that has to do with free speech is going to quote New York Times versus Sullivan, That is the preeminent free speech case. And every free speech lawyer that could be listening or is listening right now, they're going, that's right, that is. So what if they overturned New York Times versus Sullivan, and they say there is no such thing as defamation, that you can lie about anybody. You can do whatever you want. You can, there's no such thing as a public figure. There's no such thing as free speech in the news. If the president disagrees with what you're writing or what you're saying about that, he can have you arrested for disrupting the peace. I mean, these are precedents that we all organized our lives around, and now 2 of them are gone. So if you're all about getting rid of the EPA, then you know what? You're going to have to drink bottled water as soon as Biden leaves the White House. Start buying bottled water, because the water is not going to be safe and clean. Okay, we're all going to. It's going to be like 50 states of Flint. Michigan, for those of you who really have a short memory. No, seriously, I mean, nobody's water is going to be free of, lead or free of, whatever, mercury in the fish. Fine. Eat up everybody. So this is just a crazy direction we're going in. Like, seriously sick. And it's all because these old bastards, these old conservative freaks that have been sitting and ruminating and simmering in their own bile, their own hatred, their own grievances, are finally the majority. And Donald Trump made them that. And they owed him. And so they paid him back today. Totally paid him back today. But we're all going to pay in that Chevron case. I'm telling you right now, that was these two cases, wow. This is going to reverberate from this day forward. These two. This day forward. Everything's changed.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
But people are talking about this, the voters, the people who are going to be making these decisions. And you look at some of the polling, and it says 72% of the voters, after they watched that debate, said they didn't think that he had the mental acuity to be the president. Do you pay attention to those polls? How much does polling play a role in how you see things?
Listen.
Polling plays far too much of a role in our decision making. Polls are snapshots. They're not predictors, and they change rapidly over time. One can turn to another poll. I think it was the Morning Consult poll, which showed that after the debate, Biden improved by 1 point. He went from a dead heat to a 45 to 44% victory. And, I love you guys in the media, but I have to say you are complicit in Donald Trump lying and conning his way to the presidency. All the attention has been on Biden's faltering debate, but Donald Trump's debate was vastly worse. It was based entirely on lies, more than 30 significant lies. That's one lie for about every 1 minute and 20 and 30 seconds. Wow. He threatened our democracy by saying he wouldn't accept necessarily the results of a fair election. He said he would seek retribution. Why wasn't that the headlines? Why wasn't that the greatest concern from the debate, rather than all the focus on Joe Biden? There's an old saying, it's not just the evil people who wreak havoc on the world. It's the good people who don't do enough to stop them. And the media right now is complicit in Donald Trump gaslighting his way to the presidency and threatening our democracy.
That is a historian named Alan Lichtman, who has predicted 9 out of the last 10 presidential races correctly. He has like a thing called the keys, right? And if you have a certain number of keys in your box, you win the presidency. And he is very adamant to tell you that debating is not one of the keys. Polling is not one of the keys. Incumbency is, though. And so the people that are saying, Biden's got to go, you want to give up incumbency and you want to pick a nominee at a convention based on 3,900 delegates. Well, there's 4,000 delegates in Chicago at the convention. Okay, that's how many will be there. Of those, 3,900 of them voted for Biden. And now you're going to tell them that Biden is no longer an option, right? And so they have to now re-vote at the convention to come up with another nominee, plus super delegates, which are the party insiders, the party elites, like the governors and the past presidents of the United States and the past House members. They're the super delegates. And so you're going to have the party elite pick the nominee for the Democrats? Aren't you then handing Donald Trump the election? Because he's going to say nobody voted for this person. And he will be right. No, we have to smarten up right now, and we have to get our brains wrapped around what is really at stake here. And what is really at stake here is everything. Everything that we think of as being our country. The freedom that we think of, the speech that we think of, the freedom of religion, from religion, whatever. Religious objections, that are available to very, strict people who govern their lives accordingly, right? All available in this country. It's a live and let live country. And when you read what happened in this opinion here, I mean, oh my God. Okay, so I just want to close out by giving you a little bit of Ketanji Brown Jackson's thoughtful pen to paper dissent, okay? Because this one is hair raising. Sotomayor's was fabulous too. She signed hers in fear for our democracy. I dissent. Not respectfully, just really putting it out there. But Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote, presidents, oh God, this is chilling, really. I get sick that I have to read this. Presidents alone now are free to commit crimes when they are on the job. All other Americans must follow the law in all aspects of their lives, whether personal or professional. The official versus unofficial act distinction also seems arbitrary and irrational because it suggests that the unofficial criminal acts of a president are the only ones worthy of prosecution. Think about what she just wrote there. So you're saying that the official acts of a president are not prosecutable even if they're criminal. Only the unofficial acts of a president are prosecutable if they're criminal. Wow, that is really a lot to accept from a president. She says, quite to the contrary, it is when the president commits crimes using his unparalleled official powers that the risks of abuse and autocracy will be most dire. So the fact that, unlike anyone else, the president is vested with sweeping powers and duties actually underscores rather than undermines the grim stakes of setting the criminal law to the side when the president flexes his power. I'll skip the historical content, but she's talking about how John Adams said we were a nation of laws, not men. Now she says this. This is unbelievable. From this day forward, presidents of tomorrow will be free to exercise the commander-in-chief powers, the foreign affairs powers, and all the vast law enforcement powers enshrined in Article 2, however they please, including in ways that Congress has deemed criminal and that have potentially grave consequences for the rights and liberties of all Americans. To the extent that the majority's new accountability paradigm allows presidents to evade punishment for their criminal acts while in office, the seeds of absolute power for presidents have been planted. And without a doubt, absolute power corrupts absolutely. If one man can be allowed to determine for himself what is law, then every man can. And that means first chaos and then tyranny. Likewise, if our government becomes a lawbreaker, it breeds contempt for law. It invites every man to become a law unto himself, and it invites anarchy. I worry that after today's ruling, our nation will reap what this court has sown. Stated simply, the court has now declared for the first time in the history of this country that the most powerful official in the United States can, under circumstances still fully to be considered and determined, become a law unto himself. As we enter this uncharted territory, the people in their wisdom will need to remain ever attentive, consistently fulfilling their established role in our constitutional democracy and collectively serving as the ultimate safeguard against any chaos spawned by this court's decision. Because like our democracy, our Constitution is the creature of their will and lives only by their will. That's us. She said, for my part, I simply cannot abide the majority's senseless discarding of a model of accountability for criminal acts that treats every citizen of this country as being equally subject to the law, as the rule of law requires. That core principle has long prevented our nation from devolving into despotism. Yet the court now opts to let that guard down for one extremely powerful category of citizen, any future president who has the will to flout Congress and the established boundaries. In short, America has traditionally relied on the law to keep its presidents in line. But starting today, Americans must rely on the courts to determine when, if at all, the criminal laws that their representatives have enacted to promote individual and collective security will operate as speed bumps to presidential action or reaction. Once self-regulating, the rule of law now becomes the rule of judges, with courts pronouncing which crimes committed by a president have to be let go and which can be redressed as impermissible. So ultimately, this court itself will decide whether the law will be any barrier to whatever course of criminality emanates from the Oval Office in the future. And the potential for great harm to American institutions and Americans themselves is obvious. I don't know what more she could have wrote, really. I just don't know. But she said, the risks and the power that the court has assumed are intolerable, unwarranted, plainly antithetical to constitutional norms. I dissent. I mean, she's telling you, you must vote. You must vote for a sane president. You must vote for a Congress who will fix this mess.